This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. The Nassau Village community has been described as a hotspot for crime following several violent homicides as of late in the community. And now Member of Parliament for Nassau Village and House Speaker Halson Moultrie is speaking out. He says more needs to be done on gun control and shared these sentiments outside of Parliament this morning.
I recommend strongly that the police undertake a dragnet operation to rid this 7x21 island of all the illegal firearms. I believe that can be done. We need to get more serious with dealing with illegal firearms in this country.
Mr. Moultrie adds that his position has always been to try to encourage education, uplift, and build community spirit. However, he shares the difficulties of trying to achieve these positive traits in that community.
When a certain culture has set in for so long, it doesn't change overnight. And so those persons who have fallen through the cracks in our educational system, the social promotion system that permits young men in particular to avoid classes, to go through the public school system in particular, from grade 1 to grade 12 and exit without being able to read and write. It is difficult for them when it comes to their reasoning power and their analytical ability in conflict resolution matters.
Overall, Mr. Moultrie says he wants to see peace and unity in his community. The government has extended a number of tax concessions under the Special Economic Recovery Zone to June 2021. This coming from newly appointed Minister of State for Finance, Senator Kwasi Thompson, yesterday. After Hurricane Dorian shredded parts of Grand Bahama and the Abacos last year, those islands were designated as Special Economic Recovery Zones as a means of providing relief to residents who were significantly impacted by the monster storm. Many of those provisions were set to expire at the end of the month.
The reality of the fiscal situation means that we cannot do or have everything on our wish list. However, the government will continue to deliver tax relief in critical areas. So we recognize the need for concessionary fuel pricing while the work to rebuild the power grid continues. For that reason, the local sale of fuel will continue to be tax-free, given the ongoing need to run portable generators as electricity restoration continues in some communities.
Senator Thompson also acknowledged that reconstruction takes time. For that reason, he says the local sale of household furniture and appliances will continue to be tax-free. He also notes that many ordinary Bahamians are still looking to buy and sell properties for regular residential development. And for that reason, the government is extending the opportunity to receive a discount on the VAT payable on the sale of real property for transactions valued up to $500,000. He also points out that vehicles that have been ordered may not arrive in the country until the end of the month. Accordingly, he says the government will honor the current tax concessions on replacement vehicles, provided that there is documentary evidence that it has been shipped by the end of the month and arrives by April 30th next year.
The government would like to thank the Abaco Chamber of Commerce and other community stakeholders in Grand Bahama and Abaco, with whom the Ministry of Finance has had the opportunity to consult. Their views and suggestions have informed the decisions of the government to extend those items critical to the recovery and restoration. Certainly we appreciate the views expressed by some that all current measures should be continued. That sentiment, however, had to be weighed against the reality of a very challenged fiscal situation brought about by the current economic reality.
Senator Thompson adds that the work isn't over and the government plans on leaving no one behind. Rotary clubs of the Bahamas continuing to provide support to those in need, particularly to students and teachers, by way of providing electronic devices to assist with virtual learning and bridge the digital divide. Just recently, Rotarians donated over $100,000 to Minister of Education. Well, just recently, they made another special donation to the students and teachers over on Abaco. Our Dorino Saunders was there and has more on that give back in this report.
The way students receive their education continues to change, and in 2020, with the onset of the global coronavirus pandemic, some students are being left behind because they lack access to the necessary technology to engage in virtual schooling, creating a digital divide. The Rotary Clubs of the Bahamas has partnered with Alive and Rev, providing vulnerable students and teachers with technology and devices to help bridge that digital divide. Rotary's most recent effort took place in early December in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, when they gifted at least 10 Abaco students still recovering from Hurricane Dorian with tablets and MiFi internet devices. This was just the first phase of distribution following Rotary's donation of $102,000 to the Ministry of Education in November that began the project. Ken Strawn, Assistant Governor of Rotary Bahamas District 7020 East, made the presentation.
What we in Rotary believe that no student will be left behind. We have engaged in an ambitious project to provide data to support the devices with whom most of you have received thus far. All of the teachers who are engaged in providing the education to the students will likewise receive data packages that will take them through to the end of this school year, that being July of 2021.
The funding presented by Rotary is to help ensure that every child has access to an electronic device for the 2020-2021 school year. Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd was in attendance for the Abaco presentation and is grateful for the efforts by Rotary.
I cannot congratulate the Rotary clubs and all of our collaborators alive and the great leadership of our district superintendent, Mrs. Russell, for the excellent work being done here in Abaco, assisting our students in getting the best in the experiential learning through this virtual platform that now has been essentially thrust upon us by firstly Dorian and then the COVID experience. We of course are very concerned that no child is left behind.
Also in attendance, Darren Henfield, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Member of Parliament for North Abaco, who had this to say about the efforts to bridge the digital divide.
It is fantastic to see groups from the Bahamas. Rotary Abaco is here and Rotary International, because we had a lot of NGOs in this island, about 1,400 of them, following Dorian, and we could not recover. We could not come to this state where we are now in just over a year without that kind of assistance. I am so proud and pleased to see Rotary Bahamas filling that void, because after the hurricane has come and you've done the first aid stuff, people go home, you know. We're alive as long as there's not another event such as what we saw in Dorian on the 1st of September 2019. But Rotary is here to stay. It's homegrown. It's doing a wonderful work in Abaco.
The Rotary Clubs of the Bahamas, in partnership with Alive and Rev, are committed to assist nearly 500 students and teachers on the islands and keys of Abaco with tablets and MiFi internet connection. The project will run until July 2021. Dorino Saunders, JCN News.
You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.